This is the brand new Hermès H24 Herbes Vives. Herbes Vives? Yeah, something like that. I blind bought this and this is my review of it. So I can count on one hand how many fragrances I bought from Hermès. It's not that many, and I'm definitely not an Hermès fanboy. The ones I have though smell amazing, and I do like them a lot. Now the reason why I have not bought that many fragrances from Hermès is not because I think they are bad fragrances. I actually think a lot of them are extremely well made. It's more that quite a few of them are fragrances I just don't find attractive. So well made, but some of them are just not my kind of thing. This, however, H24 Herbes Vives is a fragrance I blind bought straight away for one reason alone, and that reason is pear. The note structure in H24 Herbes Vives is quite simple. You have fresh herbs, pear, and fizz cool. Since I absolutely love well-made fruity scents, and since I don't have a lot of fragrances with pear in them, I was hoping for this to be something I would enjoy. Before I begin, if you love smelling good, then you gotta make sure to hit that subscribe and that notification bell. I basically upload every single day and you will smell good for sure. And before I begin, I do wanna apologize for my French. I will most definitely butcher the way this is pronounced. So when I spray this, I first get hit with an intense dose of pear. This is the intense fruitiness of pear together with something sort of herbal and green in the background. Think of a pear-ish kind of scent that's both intense and intensely bright. This part is something I really like. Intense, bright pear. To some, that might be a bit too much, but I like it. In less than a minute or so, the second dose hits me, and that is something that's more fresh, more green, sort of a herbal and aromatic. I can't pick out any specific notes here, but it's a prominent dose of something that's quite green, fresh and aromatic. This second sort of aromatic and green dose compared to the initial dose of fruitiness is something I enjoy less. I do want to say that the greenness of this is not over the top, super heavy kind of green. I've smelled way more intensely deep and green scents, but it's definitely a green scent that follows that initial dose of pear. That initial pear was something that I sort of, in a way, was hoping for this to be when I blind bought it. The more aromatic and green side of it is something that I don't enjoy as much. This scent is something that shifts quite a bit, at least in the opening, and it opens up with that intense pear, and I quite like it. Then it goes into that intense greenness, and that's when I'm enjoying it a bit less. After about 5 or 10 minutes, that intense greenness of it starts to soften up a bit, and it feels like the pear starts to get a bit of sweetness to it. So intense pear, then intense freshness and greenness, then something that's a bit more well balanced with a softer green side and a bit more sweetness to that pear. I'm enjoying it a bit more at this point because, I mean, the fruitiness was really what I was hoping to get when I blind bought it, and I'm definitely not the biggest fan of overly green scents. It stays sort of balanced like this for about 30 minutes or so, and after that its green side is getting even softer and, at least for me, even easier to enjoy, and the pear is getting slightly softer as well and slightly sweeter. Speaking of the pear, to me it does have a bit of sweetness to it. It's not super sweet. This is definitely not a sweet fragrance, but it does have a bit of sweetness to it. That pear goes from super intense and bright in the initial opening to something that's softer but more sweet in the dry down. So intense bright pear, then intense greenness and freshness, then this soft green freshness and slightly fruity sweet pear in the dry down. In the journey from the opening through to the dry down, that initial dose of pear and the dry down are my favorite parts of it. The greenness that comes in a bit into the opening and is the most intense through to the sort of a mids is my least favorite part of it. The full dry down is mostly like an almost transparent and light kind of sort of a green freshness with a soft fruitiness to it. I like the dry down, I just wish it would have been a bit more intense. So how do I feel when I wear H24 Herbes Vives? This is not a fragrance that makes me feel sexy. This gives me a more classy and elegant kind of fresh vibe, but with a twist. So what about compliments and reactions from others? So in general, green scents are not massive compliment getters. This, however, at least in the dry down, might be something that gets compliments. With that said, this is not a fragrance you can compare to more sweet compliment getters, but it has potential. It's definitely a more attractive green and fresh kind of scent compared to more intensely green fragrances, and that is really all thanks to its fruitiness and how everything gets smoother and more balanced in the dry down. So what about the performance? It's decent for this kind of scent. I keep getting whiffs of it 2-3 hours after I spray it on, and it seems to last quite a while on my skin. It's not a super strong scent though, and the same goes for the projection. So when should you use H24 Herbes Vives? Since this is mostly focused on something fresh, something green and something fruity, and since it's not a heavy kind of scent, I do feel it's kind of versatile. I think you can use it throughout the year for sure, but its light side and its freshness absolutely makes it a better choice on summer days. I do feel you can use it to pretty much any occasion, so formal, work or casual. It would probably not be my first choice for a date on a summer day. I would most likely reach for something else for that. So who's this fragrance for? I think if you're already a big fan of the way Hermès makes fragrances, and if you like sort of a fresh and green scent and think you would enjoy that together with a dose of pear, then you most likely enjoy it. If you're a bit like me in that overly green scents are not for you, then I'm gonna say it's probably best for you to stay away. With that said, like I previously mentioned, this to me, and I'm quite sort of a sensitive to super green scents, is not the super heavy green kind of scent, but it definitely has a dose of greenness to it. At least try before you buy. Don't blind buy this. The first part is the one that's most likely the least likable for someone who's not into green scents. The dry down though is a bit different and something that even I, who's not the biggest fan of green scents, can enjoy. This is really for someone who wants something fresh in a green way that's fruity with a focus on pear. If you don't enjoy fruitiness or sort of a greenness, then this is probably not for you. Alternatives. I don't have anything with this green, fresh and fruity combo, and what I have that's sort of a fresh and fruity smells quite different compared to this. But for a more aquatic and aromatic dose of freshness with a bit of fruitiness and sweetness, I can highly recommend Armani Acqua di Gio Absolute. A different kind of freshness and fruitiness, not pear and not green, but it's a fantastic combo of freshness, sweetness and fruitiness. For a very different kind of freshness and fruitiness with a prominent dose of woodiness, you have that sort of Aventus DNA where I lean towards Club de Nuit Intense Man Limited Edition and Afnan Supremacy Not Only Intense. These two though are very different compared to this, but they are alternatives. Again, neither Acqua di Gio Absolute or that sort of Aventus DNA is the same as this, but they are alternatives. So how am I going to rate Hermès H24 Herbes Vives? So my first whiff of this got me smiling. But the first time that initial dose of green freshness came in, I almost started to regret my blind buy. The dry down where everything got softer, more balanced, smoother, and where that fruitiness got a bit sweeter got me smiling again. And after my first full day of wearing it, I appreciated the full dry down more and more. And on my second day of wearing it, I quite enjoyed it. The more I use it, the more I enjoy it, and the less intense its sort of a green side feels. After the first full day of wearing it, with a ton of applications throughout the day, going through the opening and the dry down a lot of times, I was about to give this a 5, but I decided to wear it for one more day before this review, and I'm going to give it a 6. I quite like it, and I do like that it's different compared to most of the fragrances in my collection, which does not have this kind of green in them. But with that said, I'm definitely not head over heels in love with it. It's simple, but simple done well. Kudos for it being a bit on the unique side, at least if I compare it to what I have. If it would have been less green in the opening and more intensely fruity fresh in the dry down, I would probably have rated it higher. As it is now, I mostly enjoy the dry down, and I do feel that the dry down could have had more intense pear and freshness to it. Who knows, maybe this will grow on me. I really look forward to wearing it more though, and trying it out on warm summer days. So I would love to know how you feel about Hermès H24, here comes the butchering again, Herbes Vives. Make sure you comment with how you would rate this fragrance from 1 to 10. Like this video, I really appreciate it. Make sure you hit that subscribe and that notification bell. Make sure you check out the videos over there, and I'll see you in the next one.